My name is Emily. I am a family of 3, my parents and me. Normally, we enjoy my mom's home cooking, but since today is my dad's birthday, we decided to splurge and went out for dinner at a fancy hotel. However, we ran into some unpleasant people there. The food at fancy hotels is always delicious, isn't it?
Right. How often do we get to dine out like this?
We gotta go all out for Dad's birthday.
He's always working so hard for us, after all. It was supposed to be a pleasant meal.
Hey, do you think those people next to us are poor?
Suddenly, I heard such a comment. Looking around, wondering who they could be talking about, I saw no one who looked particularly poor.
It's totally inappropriate for poor people to come to a place like this.
When I looked at the voice, I saw a woman and a man with nasty personality. They were looking over here and laughing. They're talking about us.
Have they realized?
Places like this are meant for elites like us.
It's annoying. It ruins the meal.
Then you guys leave.
Etiquette is important for dining out, right? It's infuriating when people don't know basic manners.
That's true indeed. But the manners in question aren't about how to use a fork or knife. It's about not laughing and speaking ill of others. Even someone as young as I can understand that. Yet, they seemed completely oblivious.
Hey, look at that kid's outfit.
What?
Do they think they're dressed stylishly? They don't realize the clothes don't suit them at all. The clothes look expensive, but the value of the clothes doesn't match the person wearing them.
Can't help it. They must be some country bumpkin poor folk.
They wouldn't stand a chance with an elite banker boyfriend like mine.
Obviously, to date someone like me, an elite banker, you need to be as competent, beautiful, and classy as you.
That's true.
They looked at us and said how capable they were. But would truly capable people talk down others like that?
Are they celebrating some anniversary, I wonder?
It's my dad's birthday, but so what? I was losing my amusement and glared at them.
Glaring at people while eating is a mountain monkey after all.
Stop it. Push too far, and even a monkey might bite you. Monkeys these days are fierce.
This is infuriating. It's my dad's special birthday celebration.
Emily, let it be. The less intelligent someone is, the more they talk about others like that. They're just pitiful people, unaware of their own foolishness.
That's right. Smart folks don't say such things.
Exactly. Today is Dad's birthday. We should be thankful for him, always working hard for us, and not get distracted by foolish talk.
Thanks. But all this expensive food seems a bit much.
Not at all. We're grateful you've made it through another year. Your hard work is why we can enjoy such delicious food.
In our family, we go all out for Dad's birthday every year. Shouldn't the child be the priority? I wanted to ask, but apparently, our family revolves around my kind dad. It seems that having me as their child is also because of him. That's fine by me, though. They looked at us and laughed during these conversations.
Hey, nice family bonding. But isn't it odd to make a big deal out of birthdays like this? We eat this kind of food often. Don't you think the special feeling fades?
Maybe. Perhaps we should occasionally eat simpler food like them to appreciate it more.
But that wouldn't quite suit us elites, would it?
Yeah, you have a good point.
I wonder what those people usually eat.
Yay, probably just potatoes and beans. cheap stuff, right?
Don't mock potatoes. Potatoes and beans are perfectly delicious, yet they ridicule them excessively. Apologize to the farmers.
Doesn't something smell funny?
Well, do you smell something?
Yes, a distinct poor smell.
Did you say poor smell? That's troublesome. As an elite, I can tell what poor smells like.
That's true, isn't it? Coming from an elite family and being elite myself, I wouldn't know poverty. But I get what you mean.
What does poor smell like? I wonder. That's a tough metaphor.
Looking at them makes me think that way.
Yea, certainly.
And that mother, she might think that's a diamond ring.
More like a big piece of glass, right?
Exactly. Probably some fake, trying hard because they're in this restaurant. But it's just glass, not even a good imitation. You can tell by the way it sparkles.
My mom stopped in her tracks. No wonder she was angry. After all, she loves jewelry. It's insulting to my mom to say that her jewelry is imitation. Watching her, my dad started to stand up. But Mom stopped him.
You shouldn't be on the same playing field, honey. I'm fine. It's pointless to engage with ignorant people.
Oh, okay.
Though he said okay, my dad seemed really angry. Usually so gentle, he was jabbing his fork into his plate. Just stop the nonsense, will you? Despite my thoughts, the two continued to mock us, sipping champagne and enjoying their meal. I feel sorry for the food that has to be eaten by such people. Then my dad said,
It's a shame for the food to be eaten by such people.
Wow. Like dad, like daughter. We were thinking the same thing. Mom seemed to find it hilarious, trying hard to suppress her laughter.
You're too funny.
But it's true, isn't it?
Definitely, it's too true to deny.
Hey, those poor people are being incredibly rude.
Yea, they are.
With that, the man stood up with his champagne glass and stood next to my dad, tilting his glass over my dad's head.
Poor families should just disappear.
My mom and I screamed out loud. I immediately handed a napkin to my dad, but my mom was furious.
How dare you do that?
Just gave him some champagne.
I can tolerate verbal attacks, but this is unforgivable.
If you don't like it, just leave.
Which bank do you guys work for? You keep saying you're elite bankers, but I bet it's some unknown local bank, isn't it?
What? Don't be ridiculous, old woman. He's from the big city bank.
Oh, the big city bank. Can't believe the bank like that employs people like you.
Pretending to know, but a poor person like you wouldn't have any connection to such a bank, would you?
Think what you want, but you'll regret this.
What's there to regret? I wonder.
When my mom smirked, the manager came rushing over. He was profusely apologizing to my dad and checking if he was okay.
Wow, the restaurant manager keeps a low profile when treating poor people. We're the ones having a bad time here.
Let's go home, honey. I don't feel like eating here anymore with these people around. Let's come back another day.
Yeah, let's do that.
We had planned a surprise cake for Dad, but it looks like we won't be having cake today.
Now the poor folks are gone. Let's enjoy our meal.
I could hear the gleeful voice of the woman behind us. It was the next day.
Emily, we're going to the big city bank. Drive me there, please.
Really? The big city, wasn't the banker from yesterday also from the big city bank?
Yes, that's why we're going.
What are you planning to do?
Closing our accounts.
It seems my mom's anger from yesterday hadn't subsided. My mom runs a major corporation that everyone wants to work for. I work there as her driver and secretary, and my kind dad works as the vice president. At home, they're both gentle, but once at work, my mom becomes a completely different person. While my dad is always friendly and smiling, my mom shows no mercy in business. She's really strict. The idea of her going to the big city bank signaled a brewing storm. Well, when we arrived,
Call Mike, the branch manager, please.
she said to a female staff member at the counter without taking a number ticket.
Well, please take the number first.
I don't need it. Call the branch manager, Mike.
The staff member, perhaps intimidated by my mom's commanding presence, said, "Please wait," and ran off to speak with the manager. Mike looked troubled but rushed over as soon as he saw my mom.
Hi, Jessica. What brings you here today?
Other customers turned around in surprise when the branch manager came out. That's right. My mom and I were both in work clothes. Those who knew her recognized her immediately, but strangers probably thought, "Who is this old woman? A worker?" But that's my mom's trademark.
I want to close the accounts for our 10,000 employees.
What? Please come this way.
Hearing about closing accounts for 10,000 people would definitely cause a stir and panic. But my mom's company has all its employees' salaries deposited into the big city bank. Because it's cheaper in terms of transaction fees. I once heard her say, "I'm giving you 10,000 accounts, so you better cut the fees," which I thought was impressive. But changing banks now might increase the fees, right? My mom knew that, but she was so angry that she didn't even care. We entered a VIP reception room. Leather sofas were arranged, and the room was adorned with what seemed like expensive vases. Flowers were arranged, and there were paintings, likely imitations. Coffee and tempting cake were promptly served as we sat on the sofas, but my mom didn't even glance at them. "The cake looks good, too bad the mood's not right to eat it." Mike sat down in front of my mom.
Thank you for coming today.
Enough with the greetings.
Oh, so.
I'm here to close the accounts for 10,000 of our employees.
And what about the payroll transfers?
We'll sign with another bank.
But doing so, I believe the fees will go up.
The bank would naturally want to prevent this. Challenging the fees is expected.
I know that. We've already taken care of it.
So quick. Was that the call she made last night?
What do you mean you've taken care of it?
We've negotiated with another bank for lower fees. Thanks to the foolish actions of one of your employees, our company has benefited.
My mom said with a smirk.
However, our fees are already very competitive. I can't imagine anyone offering lower.
That's for your company to figure out, isn't it?
Excuse me, Jessica. Your company has branches overseas, so you're switching to a bank with international branches.
Of course.
Well, I see.
So please, hurry up and cancel the accounts.
Yes, I understand, but could you please provide more details?
Why do you need details when we're just closing the accounts?
We're just trying to understand why you suddenly decided to cancel. We've had a long-standing relationship with your company, and yet, this sudden change.
Do you want to know?
Yes, Jessica, it doesn't seem like you to make such a sudden decision without good reason.
Then my mom took a deep breath and started recounting yesterday's events.
Yesterday was my husband's birthday.
Was it your husband's birthday? Congratulations from me too.
We thought we'd enjoy a fancy hotel dinner as a family.
That sounds nice.
But there, we encountered an employee from your bank.
What?
We were called Pua by that employee.
What? To Jessica.
I don't care about being called Pua, but he mocked my daughter and even poured champagne on my husband's head while saying Pua families should disappear and laughed. Is such rudeness acceptable?
That's too bad.
How angry do you think I felt having my family insulted like that?
I really understand, but are you sure he was an employee of our bank?
Yes, he bragged about being an elite banker here. When asked which bank, he said this big city bank. Moreover, he told me, a poor person like you has no business with our bank.
That's outrageous.
Then it's time to cut ties, isn't it?
I'm terribly sorry. Do you know the name of this individual?
I don't know his name, and I didn't bother to ask.
We would like to have him here to apologize.
Forget the apology, just proceed with the account closure. I didn't come here to complain, I came to close the accounts.
Of course, the closure process is underway, but with 10,000 accounts, it will take some time. Meanwhile, we thought we could offer an apology.
Okay, I don't know his name, but
My mom detailed the appearance of the man from yesterday. Her memory was so precise that I marveled at her observational skills, perhaps a key to her success in running such a large company. Mike took notes on the features my mom described and said, "Excuse me for a moment," before stepping out of the door. Shortly afterward, he returned with 3 men.
Is the man from yesterday among these?
One of the men spoke up when he said this.
You from yesterday. Why is that old hag here?
That an employee of the big city bank would address the client in the VIP lounge in such a manner was appalling. He's truly an idiot. That remark revealed his identity as the man from yesterday.
Bob, it was you. The rest of you, please go back.
Mike directed, and the other 2 men bowed deeply before leaving.
this is the bank's elite, someone who speaks to customers in such a manner.
I deeply apologize.
What's your attitude? Why are these poor people coming here, trying to get a taste of wealth?
That's rude. She's the significant client.
Don't be deceived by them, Mike. They're not rich, just poor. They were even at a fancy restaurant yesterday, only because it was her husband's birthday celebration. Rich people don't need special occasions to dine there. It should be a common occurrence for them.
Hey, stop talking.
In fact, her husband was impressed that he could eat at such a place only a few times in his life. Clearly, they are poor.
Hey, stop it.
Do you see now, Mike? This is his true character. Can we entrust our employees' accounts to the bank with such a person?
Your point is valid, but with 10,000 accounts, pulling them all would significantly impact us. It would be a major issue, so we'll ensure he apologizes properly. Please reconsider.
That's absurd. Expecting us to tolerate champagne poured over my husband's head. Would you, Mike, tolerate that if it were your wife?
What's the big deal about a little champagne? I thought I'd let them taste it since they probably can't afford it. They should be thankful.
Do you really know who I am?
I'm sorry, Bob is indeed a competent employee, but since he's off and out, he's unfamiliar with these matters.
Unfamiliar with these matters. My staff are well versed even in areas beyond their direct responsibilities. We ensure all our employees are thoroughly trained to prevent such incidents. If you can't remember the faces of customers, you should always behave respectfully, not knowing who you might meet. Isn't it shameful to lack such basic manners, or are you just stupid?
What? I am an elite, a graduate of a prestigious university. You have no right to talk to me like that.
So, an elite from a prestigious university, huh? Well, your life ends today.
What do you mean?
Probably, by tomorrow, you'll be out on the streets, having fallen from your elite path.
Why would that happen?
Bob, she is right.
Mike, why are you taking this old woman's words so seriously?
It's not about taking her seriously, it's the truth.
Why is that?
This is the president of Solar Corporation, and next to her is her daughter, who is also her secretary and driver.
Hold on a second, Solar Corporation. The Solar?
Yes, that's Solar.
You've got to be kidding. So, the person with her yesterday was?
He's my husband, the vice president of my company.
The vice president.
You've been incredibly rude to the Solar family.
I am so sorry.
Bob sat down and apologized to us with his head down. But my mom was not ready to forgive him.
Apologizing now, at the luxury hotel. You should have at least suspected who we might be. How foolish, but that's just who you are. Right, you even said my ring was a fake. Remember, look, I'm wearing it again today. Does it look like a fake to you?
It seemed my mom still harbored resentment from the jewelry insult incident. Bob looked up at the ring, then bowed his head to the floor again.
What do you mean by this?
He claimed my ring was glass, not recognizing it's a 20-carat top-grade diamond. What does a real one look like then, I wonder?
I'm so sorry. I was trying to impress my girlfriend yesterday and said those things. It was a moment of folly. Please forgive me.
Jessica, Bob is truly remorseful. Please forgive him.
Remorseful? Do you think everything is forgiven with remorse? Should I continue the contract because he's remorseful? Seal a deal because of it? Do you think that works in business?
Indeed, she was right. If such behavior were allowed, it would certainly make the job easier for everyone involved. However, that's not how work operates. In other words, it's not that simple.
Can we somehow?
Mike, you're too lenient. And that's why this man has become so arrogant. Do you realize that you, as his superior, are responsible for his behavior, thinking he's an elite and disrespecting customers?
You're absolutely right.
If our company withdraws 10,000 accounts, it might not just be him at risk, but your job too. I acknowledge your desire to help your employee, but you should think about yourself too.
Exactly.
Mike,
That is correct.
The manager hadn't considered that. Even so, Mike, unable to outright blame and yell, "It's your fault," at this moment, desperately apologizing with a pale face, merely attempting to request the cancellation of the account closure.
We won't retract the withdrawal. We've already signed with another bank, and even if it's just a penny cheaper per account, that's $100 a month saved. Imagine if it were 3 cents cheaper. That's $300 in cost savings, Bob. Thanks to you, we've managed to cut expenses. Turns out rudeness can be beneficial from a different angle.
Oh, no.
so, no matter how much I apologize, you won't forgive me?
That's right. We have no intention of forgiving you after what you've done.
Then apologizing is just a loss for me.
What did you say?
Think about it. I, an elite, have prostrated before her, yet she maintains this hearty attitude. I admit she wasn't poor, but I never truly understood why I had to go to these lengths for her.
Bob, enough already.
Mike, the cancellation will proceed regardless. Once it's done, she is no longer our customer. There's no need to keep humbling ourselves, right?
That's why you made such a mess. You're putting us in a lot of trouble.
Mike, what are you talking about? We're a major bank. Losing 10,000 accounts isn't a big deal. Let's think bigger.
Idiot. Don't you get it? If this reaches our president, both our heads are on the line.
That won't happen. You, as the manager, might be at risk, but I'm protected by the union. Don't worry, I'm safe. I shouldn't have apologized.
Bob, you scoundrel.
What a troublesome employee he is.
Because of you, I'm.
You're getting fired, but that's your problem, not mine. The ultimate responsibility lies with you, the manager.
At that moment, an employee knocked and entered.
Mike, the cancellation of 10,000 accounts is complete.
It's done. Thank you.
He slumped down in defeat.
Right, Bob, wasn't it? I'm close with the president of this bank, and I'll make sure to give him a full report about you, just to let him know what a terrible employee they have.
What?
You should worry more about your own job than Mike's. I'll make sure you get fired, no matter what.
No, this can't be happening.
My mom exited the room, laughing loudly. Behind the closed door, the manager's shouts and Bob's anguished cries were heard. The bank became embroiled in turmoil after the 10,000 account closures, facing potential bankruptcy. The president visited multiple times, begging for a new contract, but my mom refused, unwilling to entrust our company's funds to a bank employing people like Bob. However, she agreed to assist in other matters in exchange for Bob's disciplinary dismissal. Eventually, Bob was forced out of the bank. The incident was in the news and made a huge splash on the internet. When Bob tried to get another job, he was rejected by every financial institution, even a little-known consumer finance company. He now resides in the day laborer district of California. After closing the 10,000 accounts, my mom swiftly arranged for new bank accounts at a different bank. Of course, some employees didn't have a bank account, but my mom quickly had them set one up. Naturally, this move initially met with complaints from the employees. However, when the incident at the luxury hotel came to light, revealing the president's efforts to protect the employees' pride, and their grievances quickly vanished. Her actions, driven by anger over the treatment of her beloved husband, also earned her high praise as a devoted wife. "You're amazing, Mom."
What for?
Your news has become very popular on SNS.
Really? I wonder who's liking it.
It's over 10,000, so it's not just your employees.
I see. Writing about husband gets likes. Husband's quite the star. Maybe we should commercialize this.
What? Mom laughed, unsure if she was serious or joking. But then she actually turned it into a product. And it sold like crazy. Witnessing her relentless business spirit, I wonder if I could ever become a CEO like her. Turning everything into business, converting anything into money while still protecting the family and employees. Yet, she still protects the family and her employees, and even their families. My mom is truly an incredible person. Seeing her resolute core, I feel blessed to be born as her daughter and am determined to someday surpass her.
I started working at a textile manufacturing plant right after graduating from high school. 17 years have passed, and I finally became the plant manager. That's when I was given an unbelievable order by the CEO. "Wait a minute, are you saying I'm fired?"
Well, yeah, that's right.
Even though the CEO was the happiest person when I took over as plant manager, despite no mishaps or accidents happening under my supervision as plant manager, being suddenly fired was beyond me. I couldn't fathom the reason. The CEO wouldn't give me any reason when I asked. Then, one day, I was suddenly called in by the CEO's secretary and was about to hear an unbelievable story. The reason I was fired from the company was hidden within was a story that was both sad and heartwarming.
"You're fired, aren't you? Why is an outsider like you still here?"
My name is Mike. After graduating from high school, I've been working at this textile manufacturer's plant for 17 years. Since last year, I've been honored with the position of plant manager. Since becoming plant manager, there have been no accidents at the plant, and everything has been going smoothly, in spite of such circumstances. "Wait a minute, does this mean I'm being fired?" I confronted the CEO with a loud voice.
Well, yes, that's the case. But don't worry, I've already arranged your next job. I really want you to do your best there.
The CEO told me this. I joined this company right after graduating from high school, moving away from my hometown. Of course, I didn't know anyone around, and I was full of anxiety, but the employees were very kind to me, and I was able to fit in quickly. The CEO who founded the company took care of me since I was a new employee because he said our backgrounds were similar. I worked desperately, putting my life into my job, wanting to live up to such expectations from the CEO. I thought we had a special bond, but maybe that was only my assumption. What did I do wrong? When I asked, the CEO shook his head.
I'm really sorry, but I'd prefer if you didn't ask for the reason. However, with your skills, I'm sure you'll manage just fine in your new job. The president there is a very nice person, and they should treat you quite well. Now, I have a meeting, so I'll have to leave.
With that, the CEO left the room. I wasn't convinced at all, but if it was an order from the CEO, I had no choice but to comply. No matter how much I argued, I had to follow. As I headed to the plant, I thought about what would come next. In the time leading up to my resignation, I was swamped with handing over my work and completing the resignation procedures. Since being told I was being let go by the CEO, I've racked my brain for a reason countless times, but couldn't come up with anything. I was troubled about moving to a new job with this unresolved feeling. Then, one evening, with just a week left until my resignation, I was getting ready to leave when I received a phone call. It was from the CEO's secretary, Emily.
Hello? Is this Mike? It's Emily. I'm sorry to bother you when you're busy, but there's something urgent I really need to tell you. It's a bit difficult to say this inside the office, so could you come to the coffee shop nearby?
Emily has been the CEO's secretary since I joined the company. She's a beautiful and capable woman. We usually don't interact much, but she's always been kind to me during company events and such. Wondering why I was being called out by Emily, the secretary, I headed to the coffee shop as instructed. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No, I should be the one apologizing. I'm sorry for suddenly calling you out when you're busy. There's something I absolutely need to tell you.
Emily usually has a bright expression, but on this day, she looked inexplicably sad. What's going on?
It's about our CEO, Thomas, actually.
After saying that, Emily fell silent. There was silence for a moment, and at last Emily went on.
Mike, please stay calm as you hear this. This morning, Thomas passed away.
What? I dropped the glass I was holding to the floor.
The truth is, Thomas had been battling an illness for a long time. There were times when it seemed to get better, but last week his condition worsened.
No way, that can't be true.
Not many people know about Thomas passing yet. The company currently stands on Thomas's reputation, so we can't immediately go public with this information. Likely, our company will have to close down with the CEO's passing.
I was shocked and wondered why Emily chose this moment to tell me this fact. But why would you share such important news with me?
There was something Thomas had told me. If anything were to happen to him, he wanted me to tell you first. He thought of you like his own son.
Hearing this, I remembered the first time I met the CEO. I was an only child and lived with my father and mother. In high school, my father passed away due to an illness, and since my mother had always been frail, I couldn't let her work. So, I decided to find a job instead of going to college as planned. However, it was a bad time, and all the companies had already closed their general applications, making it hard to find a job. My homeroom teacher desperately reached out to several companies on my behalf. That's when the CEO, having learned about my family situation, decided to take me under his wing. And when I graduated from high school and got a job at this company, the CEO approached me.
You're Mike, right? I heard about your father's passing from HR. It must have been tough. I also lost my father around your age and had to work to support my family. Our circumstances were so similar. I couldn't help but be concerned about you. You were excellent in school and will greatly benefit our company. So, give it your all.
I was comforted by the CEO's warm words and threw myself into my work more than anyone else after joining. The CEO always watched over me kindly. David, who was the plant manager at the time, also took great care of me.
So, you're Mike. I've heard about you from Thomas, but I can't give you special treatment. So work hard and follow along. I'll train you to be competent.
David was a strict man, but I could feel his care in crucial moments. Whenever I struggled with my task, He would put his own work aside to teach me. I probably owe my appointment as plant manager to David. Emily, the secretary, helped me, an introverted and shy person, by introducing me to senior colleagues from other departments. Thanks to her, it became easier to coordinate with other departments, making my work more efficient. In this way, I was nurtured into a competent individual with the support of many staff members. I wouldn't have been elected the plant manager on my own. After my inauguration speech as plant manager, the CEO said to me,
"Congratulations on becoming the plant manager. You were a new employee a decade ago, and now you're the plant manager. I don't have children, but I always wished for a capable son like you."
I still vividly remember the CEO speaking happily. As I reminisced about the CEO, Emily offered me a handkerchief.
Mike, don't cry.
Before I knew it, I was crying. I haven't been able to repay Thomas for everything yet. There was so much I wanted to say, but I couldn't utter anything more.
Let's express our feelings to him at the funeral the day after tomorrow.
And then, we left the coffee shop. On the day of the funeral, I was helping Emily at the reception when a noisy group approached. It was the vice president and his entourage of employees. Then, spotting me, the vice president said,
"Huh? Is that Mike over there? You've been fired, haven't you? What's an outsider doing here?"
He said this with a smirk on his face. At some point, the vice president and his clique of employees had become adversaries of the CEO, and rumors were circulating that the vice president might take over the company. The company was in trouble, and its reputation was suffering because of the vice president's aggressive sales tactics. As a result, the company had accumulated a significant amount of debt. Ignoring the vice president's words, I continued to help Emily, but then the vice president and his group started talking loudly.
The CEO was a terrible man, wasn't he? To pass away without saying anything and to have been trying to ruin the company.
He glanced at my face as he said this.
In that respect, you're lucky. You got fired before the company went bankrupt. Though, unemployed suits you better than part-time worker.
I was holding back my frustration when the CEO's wife appeared, drawn by the commotion.
Enough, you all. Do you even understand who's to blame for my husband having to file for bankruptcy?
Emily, who was standing next to her, continued,
John, this is all your fault. Do you have any idea how much Thomas cleaned up after you all?
The vice president looked surprised and overwhelmed.
Have you forgotten about the suspension of business with that major menswear company? That was because of your forceful sales, which lost the company its credibility, right? The company has only been able to endure this long because of the CEO's support. Everyone knows you were trying to make the company your own.
Then, the vice president started speaking defiantly.
Wait a minute. I have no attachment to this company. If it's going to collapse, it should just collapse quickly. We'll take our severance pay and quit right away.
With that, the vice president and his group left. Indeed, as John said, I apologize for being here after quitting the company. I have no power to do anything.
What are you saying? You've done nothing wrong. You're Mike, right? When my husband was alive, he always talked about you. He even joked when he was drunk. Mike is like my son.
Once again, I thought of the CEO and couldn't help but cry, and so, the funeral was somehow conducted without incident. Months passed, and today was my first day at a company introduced to me by Thomas. After much deliberation, I decided to join this company. Upon arrival, I knocked on the door of the president's office to introduce myself. I am Mike, starting work here today. I came to introduce myself. The president slowly looked up, and to my surprise, someone I never expected was waiting there. What? Why are you here? It was Emily, the secretary.
Mike, I've been waiting for you.
Why is Emily here? I asked in a panic.
Let me introduce myself again. I am Emily, the president of this company.
She said with a smile.
There was a good reason for your resignation.
She began to explain. The CEO had quickly predicted that the textile industry was in danger due to the vice president's schemes and the recession. With his illness, he had decided to close the company. While working as a secretary, Emily had been attending business school, harboring the dream of starting her own business someday. The CEO supported her, and a few years ago, she was able to start her own company.
Thanks to Thomas, who introduced many clients to me, I was able to get this company off the ground quickly.
I was speechless at the sudden turn of events.
Thomas had a dream of passing his company on to you, Mike, but that became impossible. He was most concerned about you, which is why he introduced you to my company. I'm also happy to have you here.
Learning about this background, I felt the warmth of the CEO anew.
There's something I'd like you to do right away. I want you to be my right-hand man and support this company with me. Unfortunately, this is also Thomas' wish, so you can't refuse.
Emily said with a smile, but am I really up to the task?
That's perfectly fine. I've called in a great helper.
Then, there was a knock at the door, and entering was, "What? David, why are you here? You took early retirement, right?"
I'm getting on in years and didn't want to start over at a new company. But Thomas and Emily insisted, so I decided to work here reluctantly. Well, I'll be here to train you hard.
With David, who had trained me to be competent, I felt I could manage.
David, Mike here is a senior, having even been a manager.
Oh yeah, that's right. You became a manager after I retired. Then let's make a good company together, the three of us. That will be the best way to repay Thomas.
Understood. I look forward to working with you guys. Overwhelmed by emotion, I burst into tears.
Come on, don't cry. You're not a child. From now on, we'll work hard so we can shed tears of joy together.
Encouraged by Emily's words, I nodded vigorously. Working hard here will undoubtedly be my way of repaying Thomas. Surely, he's watching over us from heaven. We exchanged a firm handshake and began to open a new chapter together.
Small businesses can be cut off anytime, huh?
Working at a company that makes action figures, I got a new contract deal from a major toy manufacturer. After succeeding in the first deal, I continued the relationship with the client, but everything ended when the person in charge changed to a newbie named Tyler Brown. Because we were a small company, Tyler looked down on us and insulted us. I felt angry at such a person and was unsure whether to continue the contract. This is a good opportunity to end a contract. I visited Tyler's company to discuss the contract, but unable to endure his numerous insults, I decided to terminate the agreement. I was initially happy to connect with a major manufacturer, but I no longer wanted to work with him. During our contract, a turning point had come for our company. My name is Kevin Moore, 52 years old. I am a creator making toy figures, working in a company with 5 friends making action figures. Our company is not in an office building, but in a rented apartment room, serving as a base for exhibiting products at national fairs. Though small, our company focuses on quality, producing only high-quality items. Recently, Every time we participate in fairs, we get rave reviews from the public and other companies, leading to an increase in production requests. My colleagues and I enjoy working together, making this company a great place for me. 6 months ago, we made a deal with a major toy manufacturer. That company, with last year's revenues exceeding $3 billion, approached us at a fair. While showcasing our flagship product, one of the employees there approached me about teaming up on some projects. Being approached by a major manufacturer for the first time was thrilling, and I quickly agreed to collaborate. Working with their representative, we made significant progress, and that project was a huge success. This boosted our sales, and we continued to receive orders, becoming a preferred supplier for them. I never expected a major manufacturer to reach out, and I hoped for a lasting good relationship, but then I received an email from the representative saying he was resigning. From now on, a new employee named Tyler Brown would take over. I felt sad about losing the contact I had grown close to, but was told that Tyler, though a newcomer, had more ambition than his peers. He believed Tyler would tackle the job with enthusiasm. Trusting his words, I replied, looking forward to working with Tyler. Then I visited their company to meet the new representative. Nice to meet you. I'm Kevin from Toy Scout. My first impression of Tyler was a young and passionate salesman. He's sharp in a business suit and gives off a promising vibe.
Hello, I'm Tyler.
Tyler handed me his business card, though his tone was blunt. After exchanging business cards, we made small talk to break the ice, but then,
Do you guys work out of an apartment? Isn't that cramped?
Tyler suddenly switched to a casual tone, which caught me off guard. Yeah, well, it's packed with cardboard boxes, but we manage well with a small team.
Sounds like a small company thing, huh?
At first, I thought his casual speech was his way of trying to close the gap between us. But as we talked more, the conversation shifted towards comparing his company and ours.
How much do you earn? Being in a big company, we get paid more than the average newbie. And we have great benefits, you know.
Despite it being our first meeting, his blunt talk about salary made me inwardly cringe. Feeling it was best not to prolong the conversation, I quickly wrapped up and left the company.
Leaving already? You should be grateful for the chance to work with us, you know.
His condescending tone was evident as I was leaving. If I had ended the contract with him right there, I might have saved myself time and effort, but I felt too bad for the previous person in charge to cut ties. Later, Tyler requested the production of a prototype, which we accepted without charge. I got talked into doing it for free by the team, thinking it would boost sales and visibility, but it turned out to be a mistake. Even if it was just a prototype, it contained our dedication and should have been charged for. After sending the prototype to Tyler, he requested improvements. When I mentioned that we would charge for the revisions, he coldly said,
You won't do it for free. Then never mind.
What? While we had other jobs, we worked overtime trying to impress the major manufacturer, but Tyler acted as if our requests didn't exist. Since we had initially agreed, we felt we had no choice but to accept it quietly, but this started my distrust of him. Doubting Tyler over the pro bono work, I went to his company to discuss whether to continue the contract. There, Tyler demanded more disclosure of our product's information, asking for detailed company secrets like supplier lists, know-how, and customer lists. Would you sign a non-disclosure agreement before sharing that information? I insisted on this to avoid any verbal dispute about who said what later. Tyler pouted, showing his displeasure.
Why can't you just tell me? I won't tell anyone, and we don't need to bother with a non-disclosure agreement.
He refused. I remembered it took quite long to get a contract draft during the pro bono work. Despite my repeated reminders, Tyler always had some excuse about internal delays. I came today to talk about the contract. We did the last job for free, but if we continue, we'd like to charge for everything, even prototypes. I told Tyler that we would need to be paid if we continued working together. I learned from our past mistakes, so for this contract, I've decided to make sure we get paid properly.
What a low move, charging for just making samples. This is why I hate dealing with small-time companies. You don't know your place.
Waiting for Tyler's response, I was met with his rant against me.
I wanted to handle your account because the previous guy seemed to enjoy his work, thinking I could easily make a name for myself.
I didn't miss Tyler's muttered words. Wait, you weren't recommended by the former rep.
What? When I heard about the resignation, I asked many times to be put in charge.
I had assumed that the previous rep trusted Tyler enough to hand over the job. But I was wrong. It turns out Tyler had aggressively volunteered for it.
Working with small companies is so uninspiring.
Is it okay to say that? Just because you're from a big company doesn't mean you can get away with such insults. Complaining in front of a business partner is utterly unacceptable. I tried to call Tyler out, but he just glared at me, annoyed.
Don't preach to me, you small-timer. Talk big like that, and I might just stop giving you work.
Tyler's true colors showed as he scoffed.
Small businesses can be cut off anytime, you know.
He hinted at canceling the contract to get us to comply.
If you don't want the contract terminated, then stop dealing with other companies and hand over your information and technology to us.
Are you saying you want to monopolize our technology? He seemed intent on ensuring we didn't share our skills or information with others. If he's not willing to show any signs of building a good relationship with us, it means he's just looking to cherry-pick our technology, extract as much information as possible, and then ditch us.
You're a small company, right? Getting approached by a big player like us doesn't happen often. It would be wise to just comply with our demands if you want to build your track record.
Tyler was using his position at the major manufacturer to intimidate me. If I gave in and handed over our technology, all our hard work would be for nothing, and we'd have to accept it silently. That would make it impossible for me to face my colleagues. No matter the threats, I resolved not to be swayed. If you want to continue doing business with us, please agree to a fair contract. I spoke my mind directly. I figured neither of us wanted any trouble in our dealings. I looked Tyler straight in the eyes, but he just smirked and didn't respond. Impatient, I said, if you're not willing to agree to a fair contract, I want you to delete the information we've disclosed so far. Then,
you're naive, you know. I asked for disclose, but it was your responsibility to comply. Therefore, any information you've disclosed is now ours to use as we see fit. You have no right to interfere.
Tyler's arrogance was infuriating. Fortunately, we hadn't disclosed all our secret info yet. So, our developed technologies were still safe. To prevent any further exploitation by such a person, I made a decision. This is a good opportunity to end a contract.
What?
Tyler was taken aback, still smiling. I've realized we're not a good match, Tyler, so let's end this contract and our future dealings. Thank you for everything so far. I greeted to Tyler and left the company.
Wait just a minute. I won't allow you to end the contract.
As I passed through the company's entrance, Tyler followed me, panicking. However, if you are not willing to meet our requests, we won't continue. Besides, I've had my concerns about you for a while now.
Concerns? Are you saying you have a problem with me? I work for a large corporation, you know.
I wondered if Tyler was unaware of his faults, and I laid it out. Talking casually to business partners is unacceptable, and just because you work for a major manufacturer, it doesn't mean you should act superior. Tyler seemed to take offense at my pointing out his manners, furrowing his brow.
You think you can talk back just because you're a small business. You might end up regretting losing work.
Don't worry about us. We have other clients, and our technology has improved, finally yielding results.
What do you mean, yielding results?
Just as Tyler was about to press further, an employee who seemed to be his colleague approached us. Tyler looked embarrassed. When the employee asked us if there was a problem, I shared my grievances about Tyler. I actually told Tyler that we're ending the contract, but he tried to stop me, and his way of speaking is a bit off. I gently pointed out his bad manners. The employee immediately apologized, looking distressed. He repeatedly apologized for his lack of guidance, which made me sense his sincerity. Like the previous representative, most employees in this company are probably earnest and honest. It seems that only a few like Tyler cause trouble. In my company, everyone knows each other, making collaboration easy. In contrast, large companies gather various individuals, making it hard to spot the troublemakers. I realized that new employee training in big corporations doesn't always go smoothly. The employee tried to make Tyler apologize, but even with such an attempt, I wouldn't rescind a contract termination. Thank you for everything, Tyler. All right, have a good one. I greeted again to the two of them and left the company. I'll leave the rest to the experienced employees and let him deal with Tyler, whether it's giving him a talking to or whatever. The next day, I was engrossed in creating action figures at my company. Just as we were about to go out to buy lunch, my phone rang. It was Tyler. Given yesterday's events, I was puzzled about what he wanted, but sensing trouble, I ignored the call and went out to get lunch. Even in the afternoon, his persistent calls didn't stop. Determined, I continued to ignore them. After work, while discussing going out for drinks with my colleagues, the company's doorbell rang. Assuming it was a delivery due to a large order of materials, I went to the entrance without suspicion. There stood Tyler. Tyler, what brings you here so late? It was past 6 p.m. And to top it off, I was caught off guard by the surprise visit.
Hey, got a minute?
Looks like Tyler rushed here. He seems out of breath and a bit frazzled. Concerned he might cause a scene because he seemed to be upset about the ignored calls, I led him to the reception area. My colleagues were already aware of the situation with Tyler and were equally surprised by his visit. I sat opposite Tyler, separated by a low table, ready to listen to him. For safety, I had one of my employees, named Alex, stay in the corner of the room. Alex has been my closest friend since college and the one who rallied us to start the company. Without him, we wouldn't be working like this, probably walking different paths. I'm short on time, so if you could make this quick. As I tentatively spoke, Tyler widened his eyes, showing a desperate look.
I heard from my colleague at the company. Did you, behind my back, apply for a patent?
A patent, yes. We filed it 2 months ago and are waiting for the review.
Why didn't you say anything? If you hadn't applied, we would have been first.
Tyler suddenly raised his voice. While he had commissioned us for a new project, we had successfully developed new technology and applied for a patent. Having a patent would mean we could earn licensing fees on top of sales when contracting with companies.
Our R&D team was about to file for this revolutionary technology, but we had to withdraw because you applied first. Why didn't you tell me during our contract?
There was nothing about the patent in the contract, so we didn't see the need to mention it. As I explained calmly, Tyler slammed his hand on the low table, making a loud noise. It seemed like an intimidation tactic, and I felt irritated. Could you please not make such loud noises? If you intend to cause a scene, I will contact your company. I said this and glanced at Alex, who was standing by in the corner. Thinking he might be reported to his company, Tyler regained his composure, cleared his throat, and sat down again.
Anything discovered during the contract should mean that all patent and intellectual property rights belong to us. Transfer the patent rights to us once obtained.
Are you saying you want our new technology? It seemed that was Tyler's reason for coming. He probably thought that if the application was not approved, a direct conversation would lead to a transfer. Well, according to the contract, the rights would belong to whoever they're written into the contract for, I guess.
Right? So, you don't have exclusive rights to the patent.
If the contract had stated that any developed technology would belong to Tyler's company, we wouldn't have been able to patent it. But that was only if it had been written. Did you actually read the contract, Tyler?
Huh?
I pulled out the contract we had signed from my desk and showed it to him. To make it clear to Tyler, I read it aloud. The contract had rules set between both parties, including that all intellectual property rights, like patents, would belong to my company.
What the heck?
Clearly, Tyler had not fully grasped the contract's content. Perhaps being new, he hadn't paid attention to the details.
This contract is invalid. It can't just favor you.
Tyler started ranting like a child. Sighing, I pointed him to the last page of the contract. This agreement represents the complete agreement between the parties regarding its subject matter. All prior agreements, whether written, oral, or implied, are void upon the execution of this contract. In summary, what's written in the contract is final, and any verbal or email promises have no legal effect. So, no matter how careless the writing, as long as it's in this contract, it's absolute.
So, my rush to call and withdraw after learning you applied was all in vain.
Tyler was pale and trembling. It seemed he desperately made those relentless calls because he couldn't afford to miss out on a potential patent and couldn't easily break off the contract as a newcomer.
Then grant us a license.
Does that mean you want an exclusive right? That could be considered a violation of antitrust laws. Misusing your dominant position might even invite regulatory intervention, so you better watch your words. Feeling his position threatened, Tyler became frightened when I warned him. I wasn't going to let him force an unfair deal on us any longer. I told him straight. You're not suitable as a business partner, not just your language, but your arrogance in using the position of a major manufacturer to dominate us disqualifies you as a salesman. We no longer wish to contract with your company.
This will cause me trouble. I was severely reprimanded by my colleague last time, and he threatened that it won't be pretty if I lose this contract again. Please give me another chance.
Tyler pleaded, getting his head down on the low table. It seems he was scolded by the experienced employee after I left his company, but that's not my concern. No, I can't trust you anymore, Tyler. We refused the licensing deal, so please leave. Deciding there was no need for further discussion, I urged him to exit. I glanced at Alex, who had been on standby, and he seemed to be making a phone call. Meanwhile, Tyler showed no sign of moving from his chair. Do you intend to stay there?
I'm a man too. I won't leave until I get another chance.
Tyler glared at me with a determined look.
Hey, Kevin, why don't you come work with us? I'm sure you can create new technology with this.
Huh? To my surprise, Tyler tried to poach me.
Unlike this place, our company offers high salaries and excellent benefits. We have ample facilities and materials for research, making it a great workplace for a creator like you. It's wiser to switch to a major manufacturer than to keep working on small projects here.
Alex and I were speechless. Not because we were flattered by the offer, but because we were appalled by his condescending remarks. You're mistaken.
Huh?
As I glared, Tyler's face went pale. This company was founded by people who love creating figures, sharing the same passion. Sure, we're small, but we're far more comfortable here than at a company like yours. I felt angry at the insult to the company I founded with my friends. No matter how big their company, they shouldn't belittle others. Can you apologize for insulting our company?
I'm sorry.
Tyler mumbled an apology and then looked down, showing no sign of getting up. If you have no intention of leaving, I guess we have no choice but to call your parent, your company, to pick you up. I asked Alex to call Tyler's company. It turned out he had already contacted them, and someone was on their way here. Hearing this, Tyler became visibly panicked.
Please spare me that. If I return to the company without any results, I'll be the laughingstock.
Tyler shook his head vigorously, showing resistance. Everyone makes mistakes, except what you've done. Come on, stand up. I tried to lift Tyler by his arm. However, he stubbornly refused to leave, clinging to the chair. Alex and I were appalled by his childish display.
Actually, I sneaked out of the company to come here. If they find out I left, I'll be in big trouble with my boss.
Then you should apologize honestly. It's better for you to do it sooner rather than later. As I tried to persuade the reluctant Tyler, the company's intercom rang. It signaled the end of the chaos and the beginning of Tyler's reprimand. His boss had arrived. It seems he got a call while searching for Tyler and hurried over to our place. Upon seeing Tyler, the boss scolded him loudly.
Yikes, I'm sorry.
Tyler cringed and started crying under the scolding. His boss apologized to us profusely and promised to visit again later, then dragged Tyler back to their company. Tyler likely faced more severe reprimands from higher-ups upon returning. Once the storm had passed, I felt a weight of exhaustion and went home with Alex. Later, as promised, Tyler's boss and an executive visited our company to apologize. When we reported Tyler's insult as a small business, they agreed to all our terms and offered to pay compensation. I made it clear we would not pursue a licensing agreement going forward, leaving Tyler's fate to them. Concluding our discussion, Tyler became infamous in his company for his major blunder and unauthorized departure during work hours, drawing unwanted attention. And then, his insulting remarks about our company and his arrogant attitude were frowned upon, leading Tyler to end up with a 1-month suspension. During this time, his peers rapidly advanced their skills, growing into competent professionals. After his suspension ended, he was confronted with their success. Tyler, who landed a job at a major manufacturer, was eager to climb the corporate ladder faster than his peers. However, he was outshined by his rivals, which shattered his pride completely. After embarrassing himself once again in front of a client and feeling like he was being judged by his colleagues, he couldn't bear it anymore and decided to resign on his own terms. Once, he called my company.
I'm sorry for what happened before. I'm looking for a job. Could I possibly join your team?
Tyler explained how he was fired and asked to be employed at our place. But I already knew what kind of person he was. Sorry, but look elsewhere. No matter the apology, I don't want to work with you, Tyler. I chose not to reconcile with Tyler. He continued job hunting but struggled to find employment, compounded by the reason for his resignation. After cutting ties with Tyler, we patented our invention, leading to licensing requests from mother company. Wary of past troubles, we approached new offer cautiously. However, the new company was not about dominance but considered our benefits, proving to be a good partner. The contract was fair, not burdening either side, so we moved forward, unchained from the past. Since signing the licensing agreement, our revenue has steadily increased, transitioning us from a micro to a small enterprise. We're expanding our staff and scouting for a larger space than our current apartment to accommodate our growth.
I've been thinking about this for a while, but you're just not needed in this company. I couldn't say it when I first arrived because it was too soon, but it's obvious by looking at you. You're incompetent,
said the newly appointed department head, who had taken issue with my blonde hair from the start, eventually driving me to resignation. A year had passed since then, and one day I found myself wearing a suit and visiting the company for the first time in a long while. As I entered the lobby, I ran into the department head, who approached me with a mocking tone and said,
"What's the rush? Got an interview now."
As I responded, her face turned pale. "My name is Tyler Johnson, a 25-year-old working at a company that develops some of the most popular video games in the country. It's been 5 years since I joined the company, but I've had virtually no personal interaction with my colleagues. I've always been bad at socializing. I've spent most of my time facing video games, with no friends other than a childhood buddy, Kevin, who lived nearby. My parents are often busy and rarely home. I didn't have many chances to talk with them, which made me quite reticent. I never really knew how to start or hold a conversation, so I naturally spoke less and less."
Was there anything new this week?
"Not really. Just the usual."
Don't you feel lonely?
Looking back, the feeling of returning to a quiet house with my parents' absence and feeling suffocated, thinking something was missing, might have been loneliness. However, I didn't realize at the time that it was the loneliness I was feeling. The quiet house, warming up pre-made meals in the microwave, making instant noodles with boiling water, and the echo of my own sounds were normal for me. Though my classmates sometimes pitied me, I never felt particularly unhappy with my life. I didn't struggle financially, and despite the limited time we spent together, my parents deeply loved me. They were concerned about my lack of social interaction and asked Kevin to play with me. Kevin often invited me over to play video games together,
I've gotten quite good, but I still can't beat you. Tyler, do you have any tricks?
I've just been doing this a lot.
Someday I'll beat you. Just you wait.
Kevin's family was also kind to me, and their house was always lively and cheerful. He never pitied me, knowing that,
Sure, you might not have everything and there might be some inconveniences, but with parents who care about you so much and being able to play your favorite games, you can't possibly be unhappy. You're not bothered by this life, so it's wrong for outsiders to pity you and make a fuss. Why should you listen to and be hurt by the words of someone without that decency?
when I was troubled by being pitied by classmates, his words were a strong rebuff. I once asked him why he kept playing with someone like me. He wasn't even fun to talk to.
Why? There's only one reason I play with you. Because I want to, and because I've decided I will beat you.
Accepting me for who I am, not much of a talker, and always smiling, playing video games with Kevin was the happiest time for me. I didn't fit in at school, and Kevin was my only real buddy. I haven't made any other gaming friends, and of course, I haven't fit in at this company either. Beyond my lack of communication skills, there's also the issue of my appearance. Since graduating high school, I have short, dyed blonde hair and a tattoo on my leg. My flashy appearance and unsociable demeanor kept people away, leaving my surroundings as quiet as ever. I got the tattoo right after graduating high school. It was a promise to myself to stay true to who I am, not ashamed but for Kevin, who taught me the importance of being myself. All my fond memories are associated with gaming. In games, I could be a hero, a village chief, or a racer, traveling through various worlds without leaving my home. I love gaming and have dreams I want to fulfill, so I've always believed this job is perfect for me. Even though I don't chat much, I could tell that my coworkers relied on me. They never pried too much into my personal life. It seemed like they could tell I wasn't the type to care about appearances, but they understood it was a topic I didn't want to delve into, so they were kind enough to not cross that line. Today, a new department head starts. She was head-hunted by the CEO himself, rumored to be a very capable woman. Everyone was buzzing with excitement, wondering what kind of projects she'd bring and what her work style would be like.
Nice to meet you. I'm Sarah. At my previous company, I worked on developing this game. Let's all work together to develop great games.
She introduced herself while pulling out the most popular game from a rival company. I was happy to work with someone who had developed a game I'd played and liked so much. She spoke clearly, her voice filled with confidence backed by her experience, and her straightforward personality, coupled with her beauty, quickly made her the most popular person in the office. She was direct with her words, which some found off-putting, but I didn't particularly mind. She criticized when necessary and praised when due, and although her manner could be harsh, her points were valid. However, my relationship with her gradually soured. She seemed to think my silence and focus on work didn't fit the office atmosphere and called me out on it.
Could you try to greet people more cheerfully in the morning?
It started with such gentle suggestions, but my appearance and minimal conversation, not lavishing her with praise, seemed to irritate her, and she began to look at me with disdain. When a writer wanted to feature our company, she even asked me to take the day off, saying I'd lower the company's image. Despite this, I continued to work hard and, instead of opposing her, simply didn't cater to her. One day, she called me in when she was in bad mood than usual, the worst I'd seen.
I've been thinking, but you're just not needed at this company. I couldn't say it when I first arrived, but it's clear from your appearance that you're incompetent. I'm sorry.
She indirectly pushed me towards resignation, snorting and looking at me with pity. It was a look I'd become all too familiar with. It reminded me of people who pitied me for having parents who were rarely home. I don't hate people. They've created many useful and interesting things like games and medicine. But I don't like talking to them. They make assumptions and impose their righteousness on others. Who decided blonde hair means incompetence? I thought I was sincere in my work. Can't they see that? Being judged as incompetent now overlapped with the feelings of being judged unhappy as a child, and it felt like something inside me was about to break. I couldn't help but longing for the presence of Kevin, who understood me. Suddenly, a promise from the past came back to me.
Let's make the best game in the US someday, promise.
That voice finally showed me where I stood. There's no need to be hurt by the words of those without decency. I don't need this person's recognition. I just need to fulfill my promise with him. I left the company without saying anything. A year had passed. I was in a suit and visiting the company for the first time in a while. Then, in the lobby, I ran into the department head, who approached me with a mocking tone.
What's the rush? Got an interview now.
I thought to myself how unchanged she was. With a mocking expression, I wonder what face she'll make when she finds out what's about to happen. It's good she hasn't changed. That makes it all the more satisfying to prove her wrong. I no longer understood why I was so hurt by her words, by not being accepted. It is impossible to try to understand everyone. I had learned that painfully as a child. Kevin was frail and hardly ever came to school. On the rare occasions he felt well enough to attend with me, there were always those who insensitively suggested he was just skipping school. I knew we would never understand them. How could they mock him for mustering the courage to come to school? Why couldn't they consider that people who can come to school every day have their reasons? Why do they insist on imposing their own lifestyles and values as the norm on others? Everyone grows up in different environments. There's no such thing as normal. Values can't be narrowed down to just one. Why do people forget that not everyone can conform to the crowd? As I grew older, I realized that human nature doesn't change easily. It's hard to understand everyone, so we have to find a compromise somewhere. I set some rules for myself. Not to let my efficiency drop even when dealing with people I dislike. To only interact with others through work and not to pry into anyone's personal matters for fun. And to dedicate everything to fulfilling the promise with Kevin by any means necessary. I came to see the CEO.
Did you come to grovel because you couldn't find a job even a year after resigning? You always looked incompetent. No wonder no one would hire you.
The department head, who clearly still disliked me, taunted me. Determined to prove her wrong, I revealed something only the CEO and a few others knew, confident she would find out soon enough. I've bought this company. Then, showing her my smartphone, I explained, I developed this game, referring to the current #1 most downloaded and extremely popular game. She was speechless with surprise. I had the idea while I was still working here, but since I was told to leave. Her face went pale and she collapsed to her knees. I never intended to cling to the company, but I was determined never to give up on game development. I still hadn't fulfilled a promise to Kevin. Well, he's no longer with us. I continued calmly. From the day I decided to focus on what I could do for Kevin rather than mourning his absence, I never cried again. So, after consulting with the CEO, I ended up buying the company. You're aware of the company's dire financial situation, right? Indeed, after I left, the company struggled with game development and was continuously in the red. The CEO acknowledged the significant contributions I had made and offered me an apology. Though I could have ignored the situation, I felt indebted to the company for employing me for 5 years without prejudice against my appearance, and I also wanted to get back at the department head. She dragged me to the CEO's office.
Why would you let this man buy the company? Even if he has a talent for game development, with that appearance, how can he be a CEO?
The CEO, smiling and glancing at me for a moment, said,
Why do you think so? His luck might be unconventional for a businessman, but it represents his roots and determination.
Huh?
You know too little about him. Isn't it wrong to judge and speak ill of someone you don't know well?
The CEO then shared the story of me and Kevin with her. I finally understood why the CEO looked at me briefly. It was a sign of caution, knowing the topic was painful for me. Kevin had been sickly since childhood, spending much time in the hospital or at home playing games. Whenever I could, I'd play games, and there were few who could match my skills. Kevin was one of them, and I loved playing games with him. After school, I'd rush to his place to play games together. We became so good at most games that we eventually started developing our own.
The two of you seemed genuinely happy creating games and started to dream. Two individuals, not particularly good at socializing on their own, became the best team together. One was a frail child who didn't fit in well with others, and the other was a child who lacked family time and didn't know how to communicate. Both knew well how to play alone and understood the joys of solitude. Yet, that didn't mean they were never lonely. A child too weak to even dream, and another afraid of getting hurt by seeking more than the status quo, could dream together. As adults, we promised to create the best game in the US, and all of us adults believed without a doubt that these two could achieve it. However, fate can be cruel, and Kevin worsened and passed away in high school. Johnson was so devastated, it was unbearable to watch. He stopped eating, and his health declined as he blamed himself for not noticing sooner. Despite wanting to do something for him, we lost touch for a few years, but then he suddenly appeared for a job interview, looking just as he did before. His hair dyed the same golden color as Kevin, and a tattoo on his leg with the face of a man resembling Kevin. And then, Johnson said, I will create the best game in the US. Continuing Kevin's will. Having his image tattooed on me is almost the same as fulfilling our dream together. He always remembered Kevin and their promise through his appearance. By the way, Kevin was my son.
The CEO, looking distant, whispered this last part.
No wonder you spoke, as if you'd been watching over me all this time.
Regret was evident in the CEO's voice. Even when Kevin died, the CEO lamented, "If only I had paid more attention. If only I had spent more time with him. If only I had noticed the signs sooner." We all bear guilt and regret when we lose someone important. But Kevin taught me that our time together wasn't wasted. Knowing his end was near, he left me a letter.
Don't blame yourself or waste away after I'm gone. I'm not going to ask you to live for both of us, but please live out your full life happily. You once asked why I enjoyed playing with you. You were my salvation. Even though I couldn't go outside, I was able to travel the world and become a racer and an athlete through games. I never beat you. But the world of gaming was my salvation, and playing with you was always fun. You never pitied me for being sickly, and never forced me outside. Told me you were a hero, and gaming was my world. Your games will surely be someone else's salvation. So don't give up on your dreams. I love seeing you happy, and don't want you to be sad forever. Looking forward. I never considered my life unhappy or regretted meeting you. Don't turn our meeting into something sad.
When I received the letter from Kevin's mother, I broke down. Yet, life goes on. I couldn't remain in sorrow forever. Time is precious, and every second counts towards making America's #1 game. With Kevin's words in my heart, I decided to move forward. She seemed at a loss for words, standing there dumbfounded. The next day, upon coming to work, she started to acknowledge her mistakes to me and the CEO, beginning to share her past.
I was thinking all the way home yesterday about a subordinate I lost at my previous job. They really looked up to me, and I thought of them as very dear to me. They were serious and quiet subordinates. I thought I was caring for them in my own way, but one day, they suddenly ended their own life. A quiet person like them wasn't someone who could easily share their work troubles. That's why I should have paid even more attention to them. I was tormented by my own helplessness for not being able to notice. They had told me the day before that they wanted to talk, but I couldn't make time for them. Being blamed by others for not noticing the signs, I started to feel more and more responsible and couldn't fit in with the atmosphere at work anymore. I became so disengaged that the current company's CEO approached me. At first, I declined, but I was drawn to the words that I was needed and decided to change jobs. I was looking for a place where I could be accepted. That's when I met Johnson. He dressed inappropriately for a professional, seemed to avoid actively engaging with people, and appeared to be just getting by. Though the quiet and diligent subordinate was no longer there, Johnson was still working unaffectedly, and I found myself unfairly harsh towards him, out of frustration. I am truly sorry. It was just misdirected anger. I was venting my frustration on a complete stranger. I had completely forgotten that everyone has their own circumstances and reasons for their actions. Knowing that Johnson had overcome his own difficult past and was living for the sake of someone who had passed away made me realize I needed to be that kind of person too. Otherwise, I couldn't truly honor my former subordinate's memory.
I'm glad my feelings got through. Originally, I was attracted to Sarah's skills and had thought about headhunting her. But then I heard she was struggling after losing a subordinate and couldn't focus on anything. I thought meeting Johnson might give Sarah some realization, so I went ahead with the headhunting. I had hoped from the start they could become good partners.
Having come to understand her past, I now feel we can be good partners. Perhaps, being people who have both experienced similar pain, there are things we can understand about each other. Your skills are needed in this company. Let's develop America's #1 game together, saving as many people as we can. The department head and I, now understanding each other better, work diligently every day, leveraging their strengths to create better games.
Stay out, poo old hag. Go somewhere else.
My mom and I encountered an annoyingly boastful banker while staying at a hotel. The moment she saw us, she hurled these insults and even threw tea at my mom. Moreover, this banker has been rude to us before. Driven to the edge, my mom finally snapped and took drastic action. My name is Angela. I'm a 36-year-old office worker this year. I was born to a dad who ran a restaurant and a mom who supported him. Though a small operation with just about 4 employees, including my parents, we struggled to stay profitable, barely making ends meet for some months. My dad was a man who cared deeply about his ingredients and spices, which were always expensive. With a small customer base due to our limited seating, our daily profits were inevitably low. Then came the hikes in material costs, utilities, and labor, making it even tougher to keep the restaurant afloat. However, my dad's cooking was extraordinary. His beef stew was particularly spectacular. I've never tasted anything better. And so, his dishes had a loyal local following. Despite the constant requests from his fans to keep the flavors unchanged, my dad never compromised on the quality of his ingredients. Even so, my dad spent many nights developing affordable dishes as he saw the restaurant situation worsening. While my mom came home to take care of me, she often returned to the restaurant when my dad was unusually late.
Your dad's passion for cooking is intense. He won't take a break, no matter what. I'm worried he might collapse.
Unfortunately, her fears were realized. My dad passed away from overwork when I was in my 2nd year of middle school. He was found alone in the kitchen by my mom, who went to check on him as usual, but it was too late to save him.
I wish I had stopped him.
Even though my mom blamed herself for a while after his death, I never thought it was her fault. My dad was stubborn and passionate about his craft, and he wouldn't have listened anyway. Moreover, he had left behind his recipes. His life's work in cooking could still be recreated. My dad would be happy to know his cooking lives on, even if he's in heaven. He wouldn't want Mom and me to be sad forever. I often comforted my mom with these words. Indeed, my dad used to say,
"Don't mope around. Life is all about taking action."
Encouraged by my words, my mom slowly began to recover, and 3 months after his passing, we reopened the restaurant. While my mom mainly handled the service, she was also skilled in the kitchen and well-versed in my dad's culinary ideals. Thanks to his recipes, we could replicate his flavors. While profits were still modest, our loyal customers helped keep the business alive, which was a blessing. Since high school, I've often helped in the restaurant and still work with my mom today. Although our roles have changed over time, we live together and remain a strong mother-daughter team. However, we recently encountered a troubling individual. Her name is Emma.
Emma works at a branch of a major bank and has an awful attitude. When my mom and I visited the bank, Emma was at the counter, standing nearly 6 feet tall. She had a model-like figure and was beautiful, but my first impression was not good. It was because she seemed to be sizing us up.
Oh, what can I do for you, Grandma? Is this lady your companion?
Her first words were condescending, and both my mom and I were taken aback. Emma smirked at my mom's attempt to deposit her $2,000, which she had saved as pocket money, into a bank account.
Only $2,000, huh? Can you even live on such a small amount?
Well, yes, sort of.
My mom replied, visibly upset. Just for the record, that wasn't all of her savings. She recently started saving money secretly, and it piled up more than I expected. I reconsidered keeping too much cash at home as it seemed unsafe, so I decided to deposit it in the bank. Really? There's no reason for a bank teller I've just met to make snide remarks. After leaving the bank, my mom and I were wondering what was up with that bank employee. We thought about filing a complaint, but it's not like we'd have to deal with her every time, so we decided to just forget about it. However, a week later when I visited the same bank again, I ran into Emma again. This time, she was glaring at a tiny old lady, barely 5 feet tall, standing her ground.
Come on, why don't you get it?
She scolded harshly. The old lady awkwardly bowed her head.
I'm sorry, I'm just not good with machines.
Yet it seemed Emma was not in a forgiving mood.
Apologies won't calm me down. Give me back my time.
She ranted, seemingly threatening the old woman. I felt I should intervene, especially since the scene reminded me of my mom, but they were in a secluded corner of the bank, away from the main counter. It appeared the other bank employees hadn't noticed. Compelled by the resemblance to my mom, I stepped in between them. Is there anything wrong? Though I merely asked, I did nothing to provoke further. However, Emma seemed very displeased by my intervention, glaring at me fiercely.
You're an outsider, aren't you? Don't butt in.
Despite her harsh words, I controlled my anger. I noticed some commotion. What seems to be the issue?
It's not just something. I, a graduate of a top university, taught her, yet this old lady can't even operate the ATM.
After calming down Emma and listening to her, it turned out that the old lady had asked her for help with the ATM. Reluctantly, Emma showed her, but since the old lady was not tech-savvy, she messed up the operation. That's when Emma dragged her to this inconspicuous spot and started yelling. Honestly, I think Emma is at fault. People who are not familiar with technology obviously use banks too, and supporting such customers is part of their job. The old lady meant no harm and even apologized, so there was no need for such blame. However, I knew it wouldn't make sense to say this to Emma. Then I'll call someone else to help her. Ignoring Emma's protest, I fetched another male bank employee and returned to the original spot. He apologized to the old lady and forcibly made Emma apologize as well, probably her supervisor. Emma apologized very reluctantly, so it's likely he was her boss. Thanks to the male employee, Emma was sent back to the counter, and the old lady successfully operated the ATM.
Thank you. I'm really relieved you came along.
The old lady thanked me as she was leaving, so it seemed my interference was not unwarranted. I also spoke to the male bank employee, who mentioned that Emma frequently caused such troubles.
I keep advising her as her supervisor, and she does listen to the branch manager, but she rebels often, using her elite university background as an excuse.
He looked quite exhausted. Certainly, having such a person as an employee must be stressful. Feeling sorry for him, I finished my business and left the bank. When I told my mom about the incident at the bank, she was incredulous.
She shouldn't do customer service. If it were me, I'd consider firing her.
My mom and I didn't want to see Emma anymore. On a certain day, to celebrate my mom's 60th birthday, we went to a luxurious hotel. This hotel was a place my mom had long wanted to visit, and it was a surprising coincidence. The hotel was a traditional American-style house, both beautiful outside and inside. I was very excited, and it seemed my mom was happy too.
I'm glad to come with you. Thank you, Angela.
After we put down our bags in the room, we went to see the hotel's garden. It's said to be the main attraction of this hotel, and it truly is beautiful and serene. There was no one but us, and the occasional bird call calmed me. It was already late afternoon, and we were tired from traveling, so we decided to relax here for a bit.
This garden is boring.
But then, out of nowhere, a voice shattered the calm. Turning towards the voice, there was Emma. She was drinking a cup of tea, glaring at the garden. I was disappointed to learn that she was staying here. My mom looked displeased, too.
Well, there's that annoying lady from the bank.
I hoped she wouldn't bother us, but Emma noticed me. Though I hadn't done anything to her, it seemed she remembered it differently. As these thoughts crossed my mind, Emma approached me.
Why are you here? I was finally relaxing and you ruined it.
I'm on a trip with my mom. Please don't bother us. I tried to distance myself from Emma, but it was ineffective.
Well, what a miserable old hag. You know this is a luxury hotel, right? You're totally out of place.
She mocked my mom. It seemed Emma had forgotten about my mom, but of course, my mom remembered what had been done. It looked like she was truly fed up with Emma's attitude.
I don't need to bother with you. So, you enjoy your trip. Let's go back to our room.
And she started leading me away. However, Emma didn't like that either.
I, a graduate from an elite university, am talking to a poor person and you ignore me. Then take this.
The next moment, Emma threw the tea in her cup at my mom. The tea was steaming, so it must have been quite hot. It got on my mom's clothes, thankfully not burning her, but it was an unforgivable act. What are you doing? Apologize now. I protested, but Emma just laughed it off.
Who old hags shouldn't come here. Go somewhere else.
And with that insult, my mom finally decided to take action.
Enough. Just wait a moment.
My mom snapped, pulling out her smartphone and making a call.
Who are you calling? Planning to bring your poor friends.
Emma continued to mock, but my mom ignored her and explained the situation on the phone. After finishing the call, she glared at Emma.
I've just called your boss, so wait right here. Don't you dare run away.
Her voice was calm, but her eyes were filled with anger. Yet Emma didn't seem intimidated, almost pleased.
Oh, my boss is around here, huh? I'm used to handling him. I'm not worried even if he scolds me.
Emma was probably imagining the male bank employee who dealt with the old lady before. She completely underestimated her supervisor, which I found despicable, but I was thinking of something else. Could it be that the person my mom called isn't the bank employee? Actually, staying at this hotel was a coincidence. So, the person my mom called might be. Lost in thought, I was startled when a well-built elderly man with gray hair approached us.
Sorry to keep you waiting. I apologize for the inconvenience.
Thank you for coming on such short notice. We really needed to consult Emma.
My mom bowed politely to the man, and I followed her lead. Meanwhile, Emma stood there with her mouth wide open.
Did you call the branch manager?
Yes, the person my mom had called was the branch manager, James. He was also staying at this hotel on the same day as us. It was a surprising coincidence that came to light when my mom had a chat with him at the bank just before a trip. It's such an incredible coincidence. I was shocked, and so was my mom, but since this is a popular hotel and they were having a discount period, such things can happen. We certainly didn't expect to encounter him like this, though. James is a calm person but values manners and etiquette highly. I had heard he trains his employees thoroughly.
Emma, it's you again. I've heard over the phone that you splashed tea on our customer. That's extremely rude.
I'm sorry.
Emma apologized to my mom. However, she hadn't fully reflected and started making unnecessary comments.
It's because she was a poor old woman.
This caused the atmosphere to become even more tense, but it would be unseemly to continue this dispute in front of the beautiful garden. To avoid disturbing other guests, we moved to our room to continue the discussion. Once in the room, we first clarified who my mom was. My mom is the president of a chain restaurant. The restaurant is famous for beef stew. When I explained this, Emma was astounded.
What? Seriously? That is a famous beef stew restaurant around here.
Yes, my mom had expanded the small restaurant my dad started and now owns a total of 10 eateries. Emma seemed unable to believe it, her face a picture of astonishment.
Why? But she looks like just an old lady.
Well, I was a normal woman originally.
My mom sighed and began explaining why she became the president.
I took over the restaurant my late husband left me and managed it. I wanted to keep serving his dishes, but the cost of ingredients was so high, I worried that if anything happened, the restaurant would be in immediate danger.
Feeling the urgency, my mom started to develop cheaper yet delicious dishes, just like my dad had done. It was tough balancing this with caring for me, but she never complained and kept improving. I helped out with the cooking research after high school, not just tasting, but sometimes cooking.
With my daughter's help, I was able to create some affordable and delicious dishes.
Mom smiled a bit as she reminisced. The most popular was the beef stew, which, thanks to being more affordable, began attracting more customers. Spending a little on flyers with coupons in the neighborhood and getting featured in magazines also proved to be good publicity. People who had shied away due to higher prices started coming, and many became regulars, boosting our sales. My mom's expression clouded slightly as she continued.
But it wasn't all good. The shop became overwhelmed.
The small shop was packed during mealtimes, sometimes even forming lines outside. We hired more staff, but the fundamental issue of limited space wasn't resolved. With increased waiting times, customer dissatisfaction naturally rose. We thought about expanding the space, but unfortunately, other buildings and roads nearby made expansion difficult.
So you mean customers left and you hit rock bottom, huh?
Emma smirked.
Stop it. Don't look down on people.
James warned her in a low voice, prompting her to correct her expression.
Unfortunately, we didn't hit rock bottom.
My mom glared at Emma.
We opened a second location relatively close to the original, which solved the capacity issue.
Oh, I see. My apologies.
Perhaps intimidated by my mom's stern gaze, Emma backed down, retracting her previous statements.
Anyway, after the second location opened, things went smoothly, and we gradually expanded to our current status.
After my mom finished explaining, Emma looked uncomfortable but still tried to resist.
But maybe the business isn't going well.
Always searching for faults in others. To protect yourself, don't find other people's misfortunes. The business is doing well. I can assure you of that as the vice president. I said it with a colder tone than I expected, which made Emma mutter softly,
"You're the vice president."
I had been working alongside my mom since high school and became the vice president when we established the company. She chose me because she trusts me more than anyone else.
It's a family business. Huh, that's convenient.
Emma tried to criticize us again. Why won't she learn? Then James interrupted.
As Angela said, their company is doing well. There are plenty of family-run businesses.
Mother and daughter, the president and vice president.
James's authoritative tone left no room for Emma to argue, and she blushed, looking down in embarrassment. Realizing that the family she looked down upon held high social status must have been humiliating for her, given her excessively high pride. However, James did not ease his pursuit.
Why did you behave so rudely towards these two? They are long-standing and important clients of our bank, and I instructed everyone to treat them with respect.
That was a mistake. I have a good memory. It was just a misunderstanding.
Emma made excuses, but her eyes were darting around. You didn't remember properly from the start, did you? It'd be embarrassing to be thought of as having a bad memory despite your high education, so you lied, didn't you? When I bluntly said that, Emma looked startled.
No, that's not it.
Stop making excuses. It's clear now that you have no passion for your work. I've had enough. You're fired.
James said, and Emma's face turned ashen.
It's too sudden.
No way. You've had unexcused absences, tardiness, and you've been rude to other employees and clients. Too much misconduct.
Emma looked utterly despondent.
How can this be? I have debts. If I'm fired, I'll have no income for a while.
It's not a good look for a bank employee to be in debt. There are other jobs out there, aren't there? You graduated from a top university. There should be plenty of opportunities for you, I said, and James nodded.
Banks require a high level of trust. We can't keep someone as disrespectful as you any longer.
Why would you come to a luxury hotel if you have debts? Even if there's a discount, it's still pricey.
My mom pointed out, and Emma murmured,
I wanted to brag on social media. I've had trouble making friends since I was a child. They said terrible things about my personality or just my grades.
Emma spoke as if the world was against her, but honestly, if she were a classmate, I would want to keep my distance. She probably harassed her classmates as well. Thinking about this made it clear why Emma was so immersed in social media. You have no real friends, so you tried to connect with people online?
Yes. On social media, I don't have to meet people in person and can block those I dislike. It was easier to pretend to be nice.
Emma wanted to connect with more people online to be fawned over, so she bought luxury items to pretend she was wealthy. That way, some people did fawn over her, and she really enjoyed it.
But once you start pretending to be a celebrity, you have to keep it up.
Emma could have just quit social media and fixed her personality, but it seemed she didn't want to let go of the place she had found for herself. Continuing to pretend to be a celebrity, she eventually couldn't make ends meet on her banker's salary alone and began accumulating debt. Still, she didn't know when to stop, and up until today, she stayed at this hotel to take pictures to post on social media. I've seen articles about the downfall of people addicted to social media, but I never thought I'd actually meet someone like that. Using it wrongly can truly mess up your life, I realized in horror.
My company uses social media too, and I think it's wonderful because it transcends time and space. But the reality you live in is the real world. Unless you handle reality, you won't find happiness.
My mom asserted her, and Emma began to sob.
Oh, but what should I do?
First, you need to reflect on your actions, and you should admit that if things don't work out, it's because of your own faults. I told her directly. Emma cried even harder.
That's impossible.
It's not impossible, I said sternly, causing her to flinch. With your personality, you won't be able to make it anywhere. You have to start by facing yourself. Hearing this, Emma was devastated and froze. Facing herself might be harder than being fired for someone like Emma who always believed she was right. But I thought that without facing herself, she couldn't repent or reform, and I found it hard to sympathize. Later, dinner was served, and James led Emma out of the room. Mom and I tried to shift our mood and enjoyed a delicious dinner, feeling fulfilled. But for Emma, no matter how lavish the meal, it was unlikely she could enjoy it. We left her case in James's hands and decided to forget about Emma's incident from the next day. Mom and I thoroughly enjoyed our trip, but whenever we saw Emma in the hotel, her face was ghostly pale. Thinking about her future, she couldn't possibly look happy. When the trip ended and I went back to work, James informed me that Emma had been fired. I didn't know what became of Emma after that, but recently I spotted her performing live in front of a station.
I'm planning to go viral as a singer on social media now.
Apparently, she still hadn't escaped from social media. Incidentally, Emma's singing was so bad it was more like noise, and she looked older and a bit heavier, possibly from stress. With no chance of making it big, passersby complained about the noise. And since she was singing without permission, she ended up being taken away by a police officer who arrived on the scene. Watching this, I couldn't help but feel she would never find happiness. Meanwhile, my mom and I are still running the company. Our signature beef stew is still a bestseller, much to our customers' delight, which we are thankful for. Surely, my dad would be happy in heaven knowing this. By the way, the original developer of the beef stew was my dad, which is clearly stated on our website. My mom wrote the text herself, detailing the struggles and joys of creating the dish, ensuring my dad's legacy in cooking is preserved for future generations.
He dedicated his life to his cooking. We want to engrave his name in some way.
My mom said, looking at a picture of my dad in her office. I completely agree with her sentiments. I will never forget the passion my dad had for cooking, and we owe our current life to him starting the business. I'd like to continue supporting the company with my mom without forgetting my dad's legacy.